So VR continues to be challenged in gaining traction. Its world-changing capacity that was hyped a few years ago really didn't pan out, but there are some bright spots as the sector moves forward at a moderate pace. So to quantify the VR industry today and project it forward, Artillery Intelligence's latest revenue forecast does a deep dive on market sizing, growth drivers, and strategic implications. So what did we find out? At a high level, global VR revenue is projected to grow from $9.04 billion in 2022 to $20.3 billion in 2027. And the biggest factor driving that is Meta's hardware investments, seen previously in Quest 2 and now in Quest 3. Now the latter sets a new standard in VR headsets for full color HD pass-through cameras, and the timing is right on that because Quest 2 sales actually declined in 2023 as it reached the end of its life cycle. So Meta is basically hoping that Quest 3 stimulates a VR replacement cycle with renewed excitement and demand. Now, in the meantime, all of these headsets have another key factor, which is Meta's loss leader pricing to trade margins for market share, as we like to say. It's making little to no margin on Quest 2 and Quest 3 so that it can get the price down and get more people into VR, and that's its longer-term goal of kickstarting a network effect, which of course is classic Meta. But in the meantime, that willingness to sacrifice margins makes it difficult for others to compete on price. You never want your competition to offer loss leader products. But despite that pricing pressure, there are other noteworthy players in the mix. So for one, PSVR remains well positioned due to Sony's install base of more than 100 million PS4s, not to mention the advent of PS5 over the last year, and the associated PSVR 2, and a user-friendly price point if you already own the console. We also see continued work done by HTC to lean into the enterprise with Vive Pro and Focus and their many variants, not to mention the Vive XR Elite, which is a stellar device and actually outshines its closest competition, which is Quest Pro, in terms of color pass-through capabilities. Now, speaking of color pass-through, at the higher end, we continue to see compelling hardware from Varjo, and a leader in PC VR continues to be Valve Index. So altogether, we project VR unit sales for PC, console, and standalone tiers to go from just over 11 million units in 2022 to 19.2 million units in 2027, which will create a cumulative installed base at that time of 51.8 million in-market units. So that just scratches the surface, and you can see more in the full report. But in closing, we'll circle back to Quest 3's color pass-through. So though it's not first to market or even best in market with that capability, Quest 3's price tag and other factors could set a standard that pass-through is now table stakes in VR. And the byproduct of that will be that AR can now live on and be incubated within the more mature and penetrated VR device market. So this could give AR a chance to gain exposure and seed consumer demand by piggybacking on VR. And this is what Meta wants. So Quest 3, among other things, represents a bridge to Meta's AR ambitions, which is an endpoint it's also tackling from other directions, including low immersion hardware like Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses. But that's a story for another day. For now, the point is that we've seen a turning point in the standards for VR hardware, and the only remaining question is how the market reacts and how the demand side of the equation responds.